Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and our guest to this meeting of online presenters. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches, or alternately, if you have substantial relevant presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities in a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of our club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role or roles. Right-click and select Rename to do so. We have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording this meeting and your video and audio contribution may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please remain muted when you are not speaking. Please welcome the person who will one day tell us about the amazing scrambled egg, or is it the incredible edible egg, but in scrambled form? Our president, distinguished Toastmaster, Graham Cairns.
Thank you, Joni. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. My name is Graham Cairns. I am proof that no matter how bad your Monday is, it ends because I am in Tuesday, it being Tuesday here in Australia. I'd like to welcome everybody from around the world to this meeting of online presenters. I'd like to welcome Farah, who has arrived as a guest, as I understand it. So welcome, Farah, and we'll hope to hear from you a little later in this meeting, perhaps in our table topic session, but certainly when we finish, we'll give you the opportunity to tell us how you found us. But thank you for coming. Today's looks like being not one of our biggest ever meetings, but it's certainly looking like an exciting meeting. I know that we have one excellent prepared speech coming up, and there's also me. We've got table topics, we've got evaluations, we've got fun, we've got excitement. So let's get it underway as I hand control to our Toastmaster for the day. Please welcome the one, the only, don't swoon, she is only human. Here she is, Carolina Ramirez.
Thank you very much, Graham, for that awesome introduction. That's right, I will be the Toastmaster of the day today. And I want to start to present the theme for this meeting, that is asking for help. A very important thing that you should do in your life, I would say. As much as we love to lend our support and help others, many of us find asking for help awkward or uncomfortable. When we ask people for their time, feedback, or support, it creates a win-win for everyone. Asking for help is a way to practice your vulnerability. A tricky word for me. Why do we struggle asking for help? Many reasons, and one of them maybe is we're scared of being judged, or we don't want to burden people, or we're afraid of rejection, or we're scared they'll do it wrong. Often we think or even know that we can do better. However, sometimes the time we have is not enough for doing all by ourselves. But when we keep our world small and enclosed in only our perspective, it limits how vast our experience can grow and expand to. In addition, we ask for help. When we ask for help, we give others the opportunity for the joy and satisfaction that comes from helping. And now I will want to start this meeting with a section that is very useful for our club and a section that I like a lot. This is the tip of the day. And the person who will be in charge of teaching something important for us today is Mr. Jim Barber. Please welcome him with an applause.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and my fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guests. The tip tonight is going to be familiar to many of you. However, there are several people I think that it may be new to, and there, of course, I have no idea how many people listening to the recording it may be new to. So for everybody else that's familiar with it, just kind of sit back and relax for a few moments. What I'm going to do is introduce you to the concept of using a virtual camera. A virtual camera is a piece of software that emulates a webcam. It acts like a camera, but it's not actually a piece of hardware. It is software, and consequently, you can do an awful lot with it that you can't do with a regular camera. There are many different virtual camera packages out there. The one that I'm going to be demonstrating tonight that I'm using is called Manycam, M-A-N-Y-C-A-M, but I'm not recommending that. I just happen to be using it. I'm using an older version of it. There is a free virtual camera available called OBS. And if you'll look up OBS, it's free, it's open source, and it does pretty much everything that I'm going to be describing tonight. And so that's a good way to get familiar with the idea of a virtual camera. And then you can go out if you want to and spend some money and get a license for a different sort of virtual camera. But I would start with OBS. However, tonight I'm not going to be describing how to use a virtual camera, but rather why to use it, what you can do with it. We'll start with what I've got on the screen right now. I've got my standard thing with my picture, my beloved picture there. And of course, we have the Online Presenters logo across the top. That's put up there by my virtual camera system. I do that for basically every meeting that I go to. When I go to a different meeting, let's see if I can pull it up here. When I go to Terry Brock's Stark Raving Entrepreneurs, I bring up his logo. When I go to a different Toastmasters function, I just put up the Toastmasters generic function. And this is always nice because it shows people that you're not just wandering in, you're paying attention, you are focused on what they are talking about. That's one of the uses of a virtual camera. This leads into another one that I've used quite a bit here at Online Presenters, and that is when I'm doing an evaluation. I like to put a picture of the person that I'm evaluating up in the corner of the screen like this. What I'll do is while the person is speaking, I do a screenshot, and then I take that screenshot, I put it up in the corner, and I use that while I'm evaluating. And it makes it nicer. I can actually refer to the person. I'm still in charge, I'm still doing the evaluation, but I'm demonstrating who I am talking about, whose presentation I am describing. That's one use. Now, of course, another way is to simply use a slide, which we all do at Online Presenters, do a lot. But one thing that I talk about frequently is it's important for you to remain the star of the slide. And if you're not in the picture, it's awful hard to remember who's giving the presentation. If you're just a little box off to the side of the Zoom screen, you know, that doesn't really work. The nice thing about a virtual camera is you can put your image on the slide. If it needs to be someplace else, it's easily moved, and you can move it around as wherever you want to. Makes it very easy. It's just a nice way of making the slides a little bit better. Now, there are other ways that you can use the virtual camera. You can use, for example, a slide, and you can also put up you can put up an emphasis of what it is that you want to draw. Now, of course, you can do this with any PowerPoint presentation. You can put arrows up and that sort of thing. But the nice thing about using a virtual camera is you can move the arrow as you are talking so that you can talk about the different things, and you could demonstrate the path that somebody took or something like that. Again, just a possible use of a virtual camera. Now, let's go for another one. Let's go back to me, plain old me, but let's say that I would like to make it just a little bit classier. So let's try this. Now, that looks a little bit better. It's maybe letting everybody know who I am, what I'm doing here. And of course, I'm not limited to that. You can do this sort of same thing too. You can come up and just like they do on the evening news or something like that, this is called a lower third. You can put a lower third up on your video screen and describing what you are doing and that sort of thing. It tends to make you look a little bit professional. Now, the next thing I want to demonstrate is kind of cool. There it goes. And hello. Whoop. Get rid of the virtual screen. Thank you. I'm using two cameras. It's a multi-camera shoot. This is the camera that I was using a few moments ago up there. And of course, this is the camera that I'm talking to right now. I've got another camera over at the side. Now, I can feed the two different cameras into the one virtual camera, and I can make the virtual camera pick up whichever image that it is that I want to do. Using two cameras can make it very nice. You can do a presentation where you're talking to people in this way, and then when you want to change points, and you say, and my other point is, and you move to the side like this, and you talk to people like that. It makes it kind of nice. I'm going to go back here because I can look at myself and see exactly what I'm doing at the same time. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention, go back to this again. You may be protesting, well, I don't have two cameras. Yes, you do. Almost assuredly, you have a smartphone, and that can work as a camera as well. So you can use the webcam that you normally do, and it's rather easy to hook up your smartphone as a second camera, and you can do exactly what I'm doing here without having to have a second webcam. That makes it kind of cool. And let's see. Oh, that leads to the next one. You can do this. I've got two cameras and I've got them both on at the same time. Now, this isn't particularly useful. It's actually kind of confusing to have two different gems on the same screen at the same time. But what you can do is I can move the second camera around so that I can actually point it someplace else. I don't have to have it pointing at me. I don't have anything in particular that I want to describe here, but it makes it an awful nice thing. I've got the flexibility of moving the in this case the smaller camera, the little cam, but nevertheless I'm keeping me focused on the main image. And I think that pretty much sums it up. This demonstrates some of the things that you can do with a virtual camera. And again, a virtual camera, there's nothing to buy. Go and download the OBS software package, and you've got the virtual camera. It's open source, it's free, and you can start playing with that. Then you can upgrade if you want to a paid package, but it's not necessary. You can really do an awful lot with using just the OBS virtual camera system, and basically you can do the things. I've just touched on a few of the things this evening, and I urge you to try it out and see what you can come up with. That's it. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jim. I love the glasses and the dual camera. It was great. Now I would like to introduce the people who is going to be helping this meeting with different tasks. And the first person is our timer, Johnny Laidlaw. Please, Johnny, describe us your role.
As timer, it will be my job to ensure that we don't fall into the vulnerability of going over time. And I will do that by changing my background. Or if you look for the second me, I am not as complicated. I actually am using my cell phone. I'll do that by actually changing the backgrounds to reflect your time. Now, for our prepared speeches, 5 to 7, green at 5, yellow at 6, red at 7. For table topics, green at 1 minute, yellow 1:30, and red at 2 minutes. And our evaluators will also be timed at 2 minutes, 2:30, and 3 minutes. And I will ensure that I give my report on how we do on time. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Johnny. The next person is the accounter, and our accounter today will be Kirtika.
Hey, Hello, as an accounter, I'll be counting the number of crutch words like so, because, and the mentioning of any word which goes more than 3 times. And I'll submit a report to you by the end of the meeting. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. The person who will be helping us with our grammar is Jim Barber.
Yes, Madam Toastmaster. Basically, I'm going to be listening to what everybody says, not just the speakers, but also our table topic presenters, our evaluators, pretty much everybody. And I want to determine basically one thing and one thing only. Do we talk good? Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Jim. And the next person has a double role. He will be the watcher and the chat monitor. Welcome, Andy Byrne.
Welcome, Carolina, fellow Toastmasters, dignitaries, and all those that are watching this program. The role of the watcher and the chat monitor are twofold. The watcher essentially looks at your frame. How are you doing? Are you looking right at your audience? Are you looking elsewhere? Are people in the dead center? Are they using their frame appropriately? Chat monitor role has to do with what you see in the chat. Are you using it with proper etiquette? In other words, you're not typing away while someone is speaking. You're giving them that courtesy. And what you're putting in the chat, is it appropriate, inappropriate, worthwhile, adding to the conversation? Back to you.
Thank you very much, Andy. And I will be counting the votes for your favorite prepared speaker, impromptu speaker, and for your favorite evaluator. I will put a link in the chat and you will vote for your favorite. And at the end of the meeting, I will give you my report about, no, I will announce the winners. Now it's time for the prepared speakers section. Our first speaker of today is a tech professional who volunteers to the tech community. She's pretty much interested in getting down the nitty-gritty about creativity and creates art in her free time. She loves to cook and travel. She's working in the dynamic leadership path, level 4, manage change. And today's talk focuses on the importance of the disruptive spoiler AI. It's technological boom that connects people around the world whose change management is unknown. Project title, The Evolutionary Plan of Artificial Intelligence. Please welcome our first speaker, Kirstika.
I'm just going to start now. I am a millennial. I am a progressive successor of the silent generation, baby boomers, and Generation X. I am a role model to Generation Z and Generation Alpha. As one of the millennial women, I hold a bachelor's degree aggregating around 43% of my group, whereas 36% of millennial men hold the same bachelor's degree. I hold an employment as a millennial woman, sharing 72% of the educated crowd of my group, whereas 83% of the millennial men are holding an employment of their peers. This is a research statistics which was released by Pew Research Center in 2018. I am a Rogerian argument who act as a conflict resolution strategist between empathizing the predecessors and my successors, the generation alpha, creating fair technology playground. So, to me, what is artificial intelligence? I dissect my know-how to dive deep into the evolution of artificial intelligence and its adoption over a century. The ability of computing system to mimic human intelligence based on its ability to learn, solve problem, decision-making capability, and the connectivism for a dedicated niche problem, popularly known as artificial narrow intelligence, or to a common goal, popularly known as artificial general intelligence, is termed by the umbrella term artificial intelligence. Statistics predict AI market size would expand at CAGR of 37.3% from 2023 to 2030, earning around $1,811 billion as per Forbes. Okay, let me quickly go back to history. In 1950, Alan Turing proposed a machine intelligence test, which was published in his paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, introducing the Turing test involving 3 participants, a computer, a human interrogator, and a human foil. Making the human interrogator to believe like a computer was quite interesting, and the human interrogator wasn't able to distinguish between a computer and a human being. Later, in 1955, John McCarthy coined the term artificial intelligence. He's a professor of computer science at Stanford, and he introduced the programming language Lisp. He introduced the term artificial intelligence in a founding conference of artificial intelligence in Dartmouth. Later, in 1961, inventor George Charles Dewey Jr. invented Uniman, the first stationary industrial robot performing repetitive tasks. This was a prototype introduced in General Motors Corporation, delivering the world's first production line robot performing stacking hot metal parts that assisted humans in dangerous work environment. Okay. Later, in 2000, between 1964 to 1967, the first simulated conversation based on natural language processing program was introduced by a professor from MIT, Joseph Weizenbaum, who established a communication between human and machine. Between 1966 to 1972, Shaky, the first mobile robot, which has a capability to reason its action using logical reasoning, a goal-based agent performing physical actions by beating the commands into smaller chunks, was introduced by Artificial Intelligence Center of Stanford Research University, Stanford Research Institute, and the programming language used was Lisp, which was by SRIPS. Then, in 1997, there was a breakthrough in the history of AI by beating a world champion, Garry Kasparov, during the 6-game match by Deep Blue, a successor of DeepMind, in making the human decision-making process quite possible. Later, during the beginning of the 21st century, we had Roomba, the first functional autonomous robot, which was developed by MIT researchers by the organization iRobot. A typical home assistant, which was completely functional, and later which many other AI home assistants came into picture. So, in this AI evolution, there were 2 AI winter breaks that was evident, which was between 1974 to 1993, and the other between 1987 to 1993, to support the AI comeback. Though no deliberate reasons were injected for this winter break, we come to a conclusion like workforce capability, the AI hype cycle, and the regulators of AI play a significant role in orchestrating AI development and technology, the maturity of the AI development and the technology during this break period. Later, data to robots, artificial generative AI, foundation models, and other breakthrough innovations were progressing, and the industries were still adapting it into their day-to-day activities. Thus, democracy is a role of the people, by the people, and for the people, as stated by Abraham Lincoln, the former president of USA. AI democracy, the artificial intelligence democracy, is executed in a similar playground, playing with infinite number of players in terms of location, organization, border, with no rule sets currently, where we strive to work on a cutthroat competitive edge of technology, building a better future. The change management towards commercialization is still under progress. There is no other further information. Over to you, Toastmaster Carolina.
Thank you very much, Kirtika. Very interesting speech. Our second speaker for today will complete level 5 on his team collaboration path, one of only 2 paths that he's yet to complete in the Pathway educational program. Over the next 7 minutes in his Lead in Any Situation project speech, he'll outline what he has learned about himself and his leadership traits in the past 8 years of Toastmasters membership. And he'll explain why he, and maybe you, need a bit of Nancy Reagan. The title of his speech is I Need a Nancy Reagan. Please welcome Graham Kearns.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests. This particular project, Team Collaboration Level 5, Lead in Any Situation, is where I talk about having been a leader in a volunteer position, for example, for a minimum of 6 months. Well, I rejoined Toastmasters after a break of some 20 years, back in, I don't know, 2015. And when I rejoined, I became an officer in 1 club. And then in 2016, I was an officer in 3 clubs, and an area director. And then in 2017, I was an officer in 5 clubs. And in 2018, I was an officer in 5 clubs and an area director. And in 2019, I was an officer in 5 clubs and I was division program quality director. And then in 2020, I was only an officer in 4 clubs, but I was also an area director. Then in 2021, I was an officer in 4 clubs and a division director. 2022, 5 clubs and an area director. This year, no area director role. No, only an officer in 6 clubs. Yeah, I think I meet the minimum requirement of 6 months service. I think I meet it just a little too much. In all of those roles, I did most years 2 6-month stints, except the first year because I didn't join until halfway through the first year. So that means a total of 87 6-month terms as an officer of one sort or another. And what have I learned in those 87 terms? Well, mostly I've learned that I have to say no. Hence the Nancy Reagan connection to this presentation. Nancy Reagan, of course, former wife of former US President Ronald Reagan, became the poster child for the Just Say No campaign. And I really, really, really need to just say no. The theme for this meeting is asking for help. And that's what I'm doing here today. I'm asking for help from you. I'm asking for you to hold me to my word that I will learn to just say no. One of the things that I'm asked to do in this project, looking back at any single 6-month period as a leader is to have what's called a 360-degree evaluation. Now, I must admit, until recently, I had not heard of 360-degree evaluations. Who here has taken part in a 360-degree evaluation? For those of you who aren't familiar with the concept, a 360-degree evaluation is, unlike a standard Toastmasters evaluation where you get an evaluation from a peer, in a 360-degree evaluation, you get evaluated by your peers, but you also get evaluated by your superiors, those to whom you answer, if you like, and you get evaluated over whom you are showing leadership. So you get to learn from those that you're leading, those that you're with, and those that you answer to, how well or otherwise you're doing. And I've got to say, I've had a number of 360-degree evaluations because since the introduction of pathways and since I've done, I think, well, as I said, this is my 11th path. In about half of them, there is a 360-degree evaluation received. So I've done lots of them. And one of the interesting things is the consistency of those evaluations. Words like inspiring and motivating. In fact, one 360-degree evaluation suggested that I should have, in a previous life, been a cheerleader because I am always out there motivating and inspiring. But also consistent is that I have a tendency to leave things until the last possible moment. Creative procrastination was one phrase that was given to me, and I looked at that and I laughed and I thought, yeah, if only you knew how true that was. I have been known, for example, to do anything to avoid having to mark student work when I was a tutor and lecturer at university, until the night before I had to hand back the assignments, and then I would be up until 4 o'clock in the morning finalizing the assignments. And I would do the same with my Toastmasters roles. But worse, not only do I leave things to the last moment, I don't step in early enough if things are not happening. Because I am a motivator, because I am a cheerleader, because I like to be thought of as a genuinely nice bloke, if somebody's not doing it, I tend not to push them until it's too late, in which case I step in and do it myself. And quite frankly, sometimes I do a half-assed job of it. I'll be frank about that. So we've all been advised to bite off more than we can chew and then chew like blazers. Well, that's fine, except that the net result is that sometimes you risk choking on what it is that you have bitten off if it's too much. And more importantly, you don't enjoy whatever it is that you are chewing anyway, because you're so busy chewing, you don't get a chance to savor what you're doing. And so, after all of those roles in leadership, I am taking a year off from leadership next year. I mean, I'm not giving up Toastmasters, but I'm not going to be allowing my helium arm to raise. I am not going to bite off more than I can chew. I'm going to chew comfortably and enjoy the experience. So this is where I need Nancy Reagan when she says, just say no. Of course, when she was talking about just say no, she was talking about drugs and other addictive behaviors. Let's see, joining Toastmasters and within a couple of years doing 87 6-month terms as a leader, could that be considered addictive behavior, do you think? Am I doing it for the clubs, or am I doing it because I get addicted to leadership? I don't know, but I'm going cold turkey next year and we'll find out. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Graham, for sharing your experience with us. Miss Timer, are both speakers qualified?
Both speakers are qualified.
Awesome. I will put a link in the chat and you will vote for your favorite in the next minutes. In the meantime, I will announce the table topics master of today. She's the person who will ask some questions for you and everyone is ready to participate in this meeting. Please welcome Marianne Grady.
Why, good evening, my friends. So happy to see everyone. And tonight, during this section of the meeting, is where we practice our impromptu speaking skills. Now, here in the United States, I mean, it's always a political season, but we're in the year before a presidential election. So there's a lot of politics going on. And one of the things that they were doing was debating. So this is when the candidates all get out there and kind of state their point of view and argue kind of with one another. So tonight, I thought we might like to argue and debate and have a little fun. So what I'm going to do, the debate is how we're going to describe it is each person presents a brief but persuasive argument in favor of a topic. Speaker one states their opinion and supporting points. Then speaker two will challenge speaker one's view and present their own. It can be fun, it can be adversarial, especially when the speakers make a passionate argument. For debate table topics tonight, each speaker will get the normal 1 to 2 minutes, but this means a debate can go up to 4 minutes because 2 people are participating. The timer should give a green at 2 minutes, a yellow at 3, and a red at 4. And the speakers should be very mindful not to use more than their 2 minutes. Any questions? Okay, well then let's get to it. I think our first debaters, we'll start with an easy topic. Joni, you're speaker 1. Jim Barber, you're speaker 2. Your topic: should companies allow their employees to work from home? Speaker 1 says yes. Speaker 2 disagrees. Joni.
This is a fact that COVID helped to prove. Not only were persons at home more productive, they actually had, get this, better mental health. Now, let me explain why. Most people in the office think it's fun to have water cooler time and to talk about things that I don't care about and I don't want to know. I'm here to work. It's a job. That's why I got here. Get in, do the work, get out. Well, guess what? When I'm at home, I don't have to put up with people going, and how was your day? What's the weather like? Do you know that because we're in proximity to each other, we're supposed to talk and care? No, it's get the work done and get out. And the beauty of it is it makes it so much easier to be accountable because then simple tasks now become assigned. You get assigned your task, you get the time to do it, you get the time to think, and you do this all without having to get dressed, which makes it so much better. There is no commute, there is no clothes, there is just get it done. And people wonder why during COVID, productivity spiked. It was because we didn't have the extra things that go along with the work. We just got work done. And because of that, we did get work done.
Madam Topics Master and my distinguished opponent, what a crock. It is true that for dedicated individuals, for them to work at home, they're away from the distractions of the water cooler crowd, they can get more done. Unfortunately, those are very rare individuals. Most people work best when they've got somebody checking on them every now and then, just to make sure that everything is going on. Most people, I'll say normal people, get easily distracted by the refrigerator, by the television, by anything that might happen to be walking down the sidewalk at this time, anything at all, and they get distracted and they get back to working, but maybe just not immediately, and their 5-minute break stretches to 30 minutes, stretches to an hour. No, working at home just does not work. We've been working at work for hundreds of years and it pays. Now all of a sudden we move to working at home. God bless you, Carolina. And it doesn't work. And that's the simple truth of the matter. Back to you.
Do you want to rebut? You still have time.
I have to say, I completely disagree. There are now statistics and figures. You see, before the group was so small that nobody knew what production would be like if you didn't. COVID forced us to get these numbers. And if you go and actually look at the numbers, it says that people genuinely are more productive when they work from home. Plus, they bother the boss for a raise way less often because guess what? No commute, no gas money, no having to pay for food outside. You can do it at home.
Benjamin Disraeli once said, there are three kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics.
Okay, well, thank you. Excellent job. Now, on the next speakers, speaker 1 will be Andy Byrne, and speaker 2 will be Graham. And it's funny because I actually moved these people around into this one because I want Graham to talk about his scrambled eggs. So the question is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Speaker 1 says chicken, but speaker 2 says egg. Andy, you're on mute.
My speaker 1 or speaker 2?
Speaker 1.
Okay. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This has been an issue that has been a key philosophical point for a long time. Where do you start? Look at a ring. You look at a ring, you go around and around and around, but where does it start? Where does it end? There is no start or end. It's a ring. But let's go back in time. Let's go back to biblical time when God created the earth and the days and the nights. We're in Sukkot right now, third day. And we look at those kinds of things and think about it. And one has to say that the chicken was created by God and just put there in the Garden of Eden so that people could eat the chicken and have the eggs that the chicken laid. Other people would say the other way around. But if you are a believer in the Bible, you would say that the chicken came first.
I thank my fellow debater here today for bringing up biblical quotes. I have a million biblical quotes that I could give you, but I'm sorry, when it comes to the perennial question of the chicken versus the egg, I have to go not to the Bible, but to science and to evolutionary science. And there is absolutely no doubt in this case that the egg came before the chicken. The egg belonged to something else before the chicken until there was that final evolutionary tweak, and the embryo inside the egg was no longer whatever had laid the egg, but became the chicken. It is obvious that with evolution, the egg must come before the chicken. And the egg must come before me, where it can be scrambled. I once went into a coma for days. And the first thing I asked for when I came out of my coma was scrambled eggs. My mother said, I'm not sure that the doctors and nurses can prepare that for you. And I said, all right then, and went back into my coma again for another day, back into the arms of meningitis. And so this is how important eggs are, that they have to come not only before the chicken, but before me, and be prepared the right way.
Andy, would you like to rebut that?
Well, if you focus on the science, you have to say that an egg that turns into a chicken is a byproduct of a sexual act where the chromosomes from the female and the chromosomes from the male come together to form the egg. Well, you can't do that unless you have the chicken first. So you can't have an egg created out of nothingness. An egg has to be created out of a biological joining of the chromosomes of the eggs. Now, we learned from Jurassic Park that there is spontaneous creation of creatures. And we saw that in that movie, they depicted the fact that dinosaurs were able to create those little eggs with the little dinosaurs in them without having what we think of as sexual contact. They can do it spontaneously. I think that is not true for chickens.
No, I would agree with my learned colleague that you cannot have parthenogenesis with chickens, but you can have a near chicken mating with another near chicken and their mutated offspring being a chicken. And that's why their egg became a chicken. The egg had to come first.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen. Very interesting insights we're hearing. I am going to invite Karthika to be speaker 1 and Carolina to be speaker 2 for the next debate. Do you think PowerPoint is a good tool for presentations? Speaker 1 says yes. Speaker 2 disagrees. So Karthika, let's get it started.
What a question. Like PowerPoint to be quite interesting for me to present today's meeting, and that becomes a topic for me today. Of course, I would support, because I have presented it today, PowerPoint being the best software that I have used, especially on Zoom, to share the screen properly, positioning myself around the screen and moving around as I could. So PowerPoint not only gives you the flexibility to introduce the speaker efficiently only with the background of the slides that you have prepared, by adjusting its sides and corners, framing it exactly to your positioning. It also enables you to project the sound efficiently by having it not being disturbed during any of the virtual online platform that is being used, nevertheless being Zoom. So in this respect, I would say PowerPoint, as it has the current capability of generating slides, the PowerPoint, which is powered by Google, has right now the capability to generate slides on its own using the AI assistants. It is quite efficient for anybody to collaborate on an online platform, which is a cloud-based approach, the Google PowerPoint, which is easy for you to have a collaborated work online, as well as your own personal Microsoft account gives you the opportunity to have it under your control. Saying this, you can also generate images and also create a story in bullet points with less words and more pictures, giving less descriptive and pictorial representation of your concept. I think I completely support the PowerPoint and I'm up to it. Over to you.
Fellow Toastmasters, leaders don't do PowerPoint. What is that? Because you need your audience to be paying attention to you, to your message. You need to create an atmosphere in where your audience will take action regarding what you say in your speech. If you want them to be reading some information, maybe you can send a pre-read, and you can send that pre-read in Word, in PowerPoint, you have many mechanisms to send information, maybe an email. But when you are presenting, you need the attention in you. You don't need your audience to be reading slides, because It's very studied that people cannot be paying attention in two things at the same time, your slides and you. If you want all the attention in your message, you don't need PowerPoint. You don't need to be your audience reading some slides or paying attention to visual aids. You need to be in front of your audience, completely empowered of your message, and pass your message to everyone and make the people to take action about what you're saying. Maybe you can send a pre-read, as I said before, or maybe you can send some information after your presentation, but in that moment is your moment and you need all the attention in you and your message. Remember this, leaders don't do PowerPoint.
Do you have
Back
any
to
final
you.
words, Karthika?
Yes, of course. I would like to add PowerPoint. Not all audience have accessibility issue, but few does have accessibility issue where few would be able to hear and few would be able to visually see. It's a good practice to have a matching information which is being shared through the words that is being projected as highlights in the PowerPoint that gives you a pair of information to be stored into your long-term memory, having people who have like limited memory access to things and who have short span of memory catching capability. So I prefer to do PowerPoint and I present myself with the PowerPoint that gives more accessible, more accessible to much more larger audience. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Okay, now Farah, would you consider being part of our table topics tonight?
Yes, sure.
Okay, Farah, you'll be speaker 1, and Andrea, you'll be speaker 2. Speaker 1 says, or the question is, which pet is superior, dogs or cats? Speaker 1 says cats, and speaker 2 says dogs.
Wonderful question. I'm number 1, right?
Yep.
Okay. Of course, a dog. Dogs are very powerful. They could be very fast. And they're also friendly. Sometimes there are dogs that are slow, but dogs are friendly. And they will approach the cat and they'll try to overrule them by barking, by chasing, by just by bothering the cats. I'll say that dog will be more dominant in terms of size and the weight, and also in terms of how they bark loud, and also how they urine. And they will try to lead the cat no matter what, even though they do not sometimes. So back to you.
Andre.
With all my due respect, Farah, thank you very much for your inspiring speech about dogs. Of course, dogs, after you said many people would say. At the same time, taking into account the beauty, the independence, and all that that only cats can do. You cannot take it away from the cats lovers from all around the world and put a fat woof, stop and saying the dogs are more superior. There is no way it can happen, not on my watch. Especially for the cat lovers, when you know that little purring meow jumping all over the place, and with that little big massive eyes. Have you seen Shrek? Yes, you have. I can see it in your eyes. Many of you have seen the cartoon. And the cat in the boots with those big massive eyes when they look at you. You just want to grab that cuddly thing. But then it's a hidden talent. They can scratch you and scratch you again and do the eyes again. That's something that dog will never, ever be able to do. Back to you, Farah, for more arguments.
For the dogs, but they will be more faster. Their agility is there. Cats are not. Cats are weak, they're small, and they could be scared of coyotes, especially, and dogs too, but dogs could get away faster sometimes, a lot of times. You could also think about a lot of dogs, police dogs, very highly trained, very highly intelligent, that a lot of things that dog could do, cat cannot. So cats, most of the time, they cannot be trained, but dogs can. And they could be trained to do more physical training, to do a lot more than cats can. Cats are limited in their power and their speed and their personality. Due to their personality, I'll say dog could rule the cat someday. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Farah. I'm with you. I'm a dog person, but great argument, you two. And, just so everyone thinks about it, whether you enjoy debating or not, really being able to put forth your opinion quickly and speak on your feet is a very important skill to develop so that you can jump into a conversation if need be. So just keep that in mind, and back to you, Toastmaster of the Day, Carolina.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for your questions. Miss Timer, is everyone qualified?
Everyone qualified today.
Thank you very much. I will put a link in the chat and you will vote for your favorite. Now it's time for feedback, for evaluations. Please, evaluators, remember we only have 15 minutes to finish the meeting. Please be brief with your reports. Please welcome our general evaluator of today, Andrzej Smolenko.
Oh, thank you very much, Toastmaster of the evening, Carolina, my fellow online presenters, and our guest, Farah, today. Now is one of the most important parts of the online presenters meeting, is evaluation portion. Evaluation as simple as it can be. We had two prepared speakers today, so you will hear two evaluators given their short 2 to 3 minute speeches designed to enhance experience that we already heard from the speakers and help them to improve, help them to grow. As Carolina mentioned, we have tight time, we're on schedule, so let's get on with our first evaluator. Is Marianne Grady. Will be evaluating speaker number one, Kirtika. Over to you, Marianne.
Good evening again, everybody, and especially to you, Kirtika. Tonight, I would like to talk about, you picked AI. I am particularly fascinated and afraid of AI. So your topic is really relevant now, and I think a lot of people would be interested in it. So thank you very much for your speech. And when I listen to you, Kirtika, I see a subject matter expert. You are somebody who really seems to know her stuff. But when you do speeches that have a lot of information, it could be a little bit dry. So I think I have a couple of suggestions that might help you be a little bit more engaging when you're speaking. And, because we want to combat that dryness. Now, you can use vocal variety, though you can't go too crazy with it in an informational speech. So, but you did say things like, this is quite interesting. So there's places where you can make that vocal variety work for you. You could ask a question of the audience, what do you know about this? Or have you heard of this? Just something that gets the audience to kind of come back to you, or put something in the chat. You used a single slide, and you were in front of the word role model, so you couldn't really see it on your single slide, but you did move, and when you moved forward to look at your notes, you actually cut your head off when you did that. So you want to make sure that you're staying in frame when you're giving your presentation. And I thought, instead of the slide that you used, that perhaps a timeline would have been something that people could have followed a little easier, because there were a lot of dates and information that you were talking about. And so giving a timeline might help us follow easier. But I do really enjoy your speeches, because I really like when somebody's prepared and knows their stuff, and I appreciate all the work you put into it. You do have very congruent gestures. You're excellent with your hand gestures. And one last thing, don't forget to smile sometimes, and put a light in front of you. You're a little on the dark side when you're doing it, but your speaking is coming along. I've watched you progress so much, and I'm really impressed with how quickly you're just, kind of knocking it out of the park. So thank you for your speech tonight, and back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for your excellent and insightful evaluation. I have a feeling that Kritika will take it on board and will use it in her next speech. And we're moving on to the evaluator number 2, and is Andrei Smolenko, who will be evaluating Graham Carnes. Graham, what an incredible, powerful, and clear to follow speech. You started with a simple introduction to your project, even though it was level 5 team collaboration project, which in my view is quite a complicated piece of work that any of us could do only after accomplishing at least 6 months of being a leader of an organization, perhaps a Toastmasters. At the same time, I would like to see from the outset a little bit more powerful and engaging beginning. For example, what can you do in 43.5 years of your life? And making a pause. And then perhaps you could explain this, how long you've been a leader of a Toastmaster, taking into account 87 times for 6 months as a leader. That would be it. That, I think, would grab our attention into your speech straight away. Then you moved into explaining masterfully about what it took you to get through that project. What was 360 degrees evaluation that many of us were familiar with. You used the audience participation as well by asking a question if we were familiar with that. And then, in my view, you moved into the most juicy bits of your speech, the lessons that you learned, the lessons that you could share with us, with the audience, that we could learn, and perhaps we could avoid some of the mistakes that you made. I really like that you mentioned about I have to say no, which is really connected and resonate with all the audience. We're all taking sometimes too much, and we just need someone to say, hold on a sec, take a breather, just try to say no. It's too much to chew. I really like when you show the vulnerable side of yourself about creative procrastination by jumping into things in the last moment instead of taking your time to prepare things in advance. I really like that. I can use it in my life, in my work. At the same time, I would like to know how all the efforts and chewing many pies affected your personal life. There are some drawbacks of spending so much time away from your family. They have to sacrifice some of the time when you are not with them. I want to know how that affected them too. Overall, with your team collaboration project, Graham, you showed a masterful degree of explaining things, a leadership, and sense of humor. So I would like to hear the next speech very, very soon. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator. Oh, thank you, Andre. That was an excellent evaluation of Graham Curran's speech. And I'm sure you have a really good prospects of being a winner of evaluation conquest today. Nevertheless, Madam Taima, I would like to ask for your reports. You already put them in the chat box. Are both speakers qualified, evaluators?
Both evaluators are qualified.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we have an excellent opportunity to choose a best evaluator by clicking on the box in your chat box on our meeting chat, and just pick one or pick two. I think you can do both as well. Then this concludes the third part of our evening, because we had only two prepared speakers today, so we had two evaluators. Then we go into a brief reports from the people without whom this meeting would not be possible, at least in its form as it is now. And I would like to call up our first helper, who is, just 1 second, have it written down here, is our accountant, Kirtika. Please, very briefly, try to do it in under 1 minute. Tell us about the meeting and what you've been looking out for.
Being vulnerable to a quite relevant speech that is being provided before audience is important. And obviously, everyone have become a victim of vulnerability, of using the connecting words like but and crutch words like huh. So I don't want to differentiate any single person like you have used these many times. Instead, I would just like to end my evaluation on using or not using the connecting words to become much more less relevant with the speech that we make is with the famous author who says, Bernie Brown, who says, vulnerability is not a shame. It's an opportunity for you to learn and become authentic, more authentic about yourself. Become more authentic in using less connecting words and become much more expressive enough. Over to you, General Evaluator Andrew.
Thank you very much, Kirtika, for your insightful evaluation as the accountant. And we go into our grammarian, Mr. Jim Barber. Please take it away.
Yes, Mr. General Evaluator, in the interests of time, I'm going to limit my comments to our two speakers this evening. Kirtika demonstrated a strength of vocabulary this evening. She used the words progressive successor, gregarian argument, and maturity of AI development, all very strong words. Graham, on the other hand, used rather simple words, but he used them masterfully. For example, he talked about creative procrastination. I loved the metaphor that he used throughout his speech on chewing. That was so well done. And finally, of course, he also used the Nancy Reagan phrase, just say no, but the way that he said it was to pause dramatically between each of the three words, just say no. And that gave great power to rather simple words. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Jim, for your grammarian report. And we go into watcher and chat monitor. It's Andrew Byrne, who had a double duty today. Please, Andrew, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I think that if you look through the chat, and I'd recommend saving it because there's a lot of information in the chat. There's some compliments to people, which is always great because we support each member of the club. And then there was some back and forth added information as people were participating with the speakers. I also had some information about a meeting that might be of interest to all of you, and that's Zoomtopia. Zoomtopia is put on by Zoom. It goes for 2 days. And to give you an idea, last year when they did it, they introduced 7,000 companies that had integrations into Zoom. So it showed how Zoom was expanding. This year, I've looked at the agenda. It's fantastic, and I recommend it to all. That's an aside. But I did want to say that I watched the comments that everyone was putting in. They were in tune. They were focused and working on the meeting. As far as body language, everybody was dead on their screens. As Marianne said, Keitha could use a little bit more light to her face. And otherwise, everybody did a great job. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And before we go to Toastmaster of the Day / vote counter, Carolina Ramirez, I just would like to say a few words about the meeting in general. I love online presenters. I love the way we can put or pull our forces together in that final hour, probably under the leadership of Graham Carnes, who mentioned about his creative procrastination, and we just get into the project and we have it all done, having double duties, sometimes triple duties, and we have an exciting, dynamic meeting. Always works because we are advanced club. At the same time, a bit of recommendation, perhaps if Toastmaster of the Day could send maybe a few reminders in general to the all club members to take roles, encourage them to do so. That would help more club members to learn and be at the meeting as well. Overall, I think we did an excellent job. And I would like to point out one of my favorite phrases from the book by, I think, Andrew Fairley. Is called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's one of the most kindest books I ever read in my life. And it was the quote about help. When you ask for help, you're not giving up. You're refusing to give up. And to me, it's one of the most powerful phrases that perhaps some of you didn't know, but now you know it. So, but now I'm passing on the stage to Carolina, who will announce the winners of today's meeting.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's time for the winners. Best evaluator is Marianne Grady. Best table topics speaker, the winner is Johnny Laidlaw. And the best prepared speaker is Graham Kearns. And now I pass the meeting to our president and winner to close this meeting, Graham. Back to you.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you for a marvelous job as Toastmaster of the Day. We only have 60 seconds left, so I will ask Farah, how did you find today's meeting? Did you enjoy yourself and did you get some value from today?
Yes, I enjoyed the meeting. Thank you for letting me come to your meeting. I'm sorry my light went off. I really enjoyed the table topics, and it's about online presentation and how it's prepped and how it's like questions are really good too. I enjoyed the table topics, and I like how it's fast paced compared to my club.
Cool. Well,
so
thank you
I'm
for
from
coming along.
California. Yeah.
Ah, good. Well,
So
welcome
thank
along.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
And if we can get your email in the chat so that our Vice President for Marketing can keep in touch with you and let you know all about our club. Thank you for coming. It was good to see you. We'll be back here again next week, and we'd love to see you again. On that note,
I'll be
we
back
are
next week, actually.
we are in fact out of time. So oh yeah, it's an interesting question there about whether we get credit for officer training.